Alright, so today I want to show you how to make some dark ball pythons using genes that specifically darken the combinations when you mix it in with other genes. And it's pretty amazing. You can actually make some solid jet black snakes. You can actually take those and make a jet black snake with some really bright highlights on them. You can do a whole bunch of different things with the dark side of the morphs. You know, a lot of people are kind of attracted to the flashy snakes like the pastels and the yellow bellies, the really bright ones. But on the flip side, you can actually work on the dark morphs, kind of go in the complete opposite direction, and there's a lot of really impressive combinations that you can make specifically targeting a few genes that bring out the really dark black background on a lot of these snakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the internet and I'm going to show you how to make some really amazing dark ball pythons. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on Morphmarket.com and I want to start with the GHI ball python. The GHI is actually a dark morph, makes some really impressive combos. As a matter of fact, if you ask me what is the #1 dark combo that you've ever seen, and probably the first thing that comes to mind is a Mojave GHI. Makes a really impressive snake. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the GHI. The GHI actually is short for gotta have it. That's kind of how they came up with the name GHI, if you're wondering what that stands for. And the GHI has a really dark background. It brings in a lot of the dark color in combos, and it also kind of scrambles up the pattern similar to Leopard. So the kind of the advantage with the Leopard is you can actually scramble up the pattern with the Leopard, but you keep the original color of the combination, versus if you were to use the GHI, you're actually scrambling up the pattern in a lot of cases, and then you're darkening the background. So I kind of want to show you what the GHI looks like here. Then I want to show you real quick what the Mojave looks like. This is the Mojave, and the Mojave almost has these like keyhole patterns in the side. It's actually in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. You take two Mojaves, cross them together, you get an all-white snake with blue eyes. And if you actually take a Mojave, breed it to a GHI, 25% of the time you'll actually get this snake right here. This is a Mojave GHI. Just take a look at this, and it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of different variations of Mojave GHI. I've actually seen quite a few people on YouTube handling their Mojave GHIs, and let me tell you, this snake, it doesn't even look real if you actually see it in person and you see someone handling it. It almost looks like a toy snake. It's pretty amazing. So another thing you can actually do is add some other genes to the GHI Mojave. So if you actually add blade to the GHI Mojave, essentially what that does is you get a stripe all the way down the top of the snake, versus if you go back to the Mojave GHI, usually it's kind of a dotted line right down the back with the Mojave GHI. And the blade's kind of interesting. It's almost like I'd say it kind of acts like Enchi, where it really reduces the pattern. As a matter of fact, when the blade first came out and I started listening about, you know, the blade, pretty much all the time I heard blade, it was always the blade clown. I always thought that the blade was a reduced version of the clown. I thought it was associated with the clown. And then I found out like a year later that people are actually separating out the blade from the clown, and it's actually its own gene by itself. And it's definitely different than Enchi, but it kind of acts like Enchi in a lot of clown combos, which is kind of interesting. So here's another thing you can actually do with the GHI Mojave. You can actually add gravel to the GHI Mojave. And take a look at this thing. The gravel makes it look just so much better. It's so incredible. It almost turns a snake into like a solid jet black snake. It's really incredible. Keeps the really bright colors right down the top, and it brings up some white along the belly. And the gravel is kind of difficult because it almost looks like a normal ball python. It's kind of the same with the yellow belly. If you mix the gravel with the yellow belly, you actually get the highways, which are really impressive, but the gravel by itself is not really impressive. And it was kind of interesting to kind of stumble onto this where they mixed the gravel in with the GHI Mojave, making this really impressive dark snake. So here's another one. This is actually a super GHI. If you actually take two GHIs, breed them together, you get a super GHI. And if you actually add Pastel to the mix, you get this really amazing snake. Look at this. This almost looks like it's made out of metal or something. I've actually produced some ball pythons that have this metallic look to them. Don't even look real. It's pretty amazing. This is the Pastel super GHI. Possible fire. I'm not sure if the fire's in there or not, because the fire would really lighten the background. I think if it actually did have fire in here, it would be a lot lighter in the background than it actually is. But this is a really impressive dark combo. So here's another snake. This is actually a cinnamon. The cinnamon is also a dark gene. There's a few of them that are kind of in this dark complex, I guess you say. And they all, it's kind of interesting. A lot of these just by themselves look almost like normal ball pythons. I actually have a normal female that looks almost exactly like this. And the way you can actually tell what it is to actually make the super. So you take two cinnamons, breed it together, and make a super cinnamon. And take a look at what the super cinnamon looks like. That is a really awesome snake. If you're looking for a really dark snake, this is probably high on the list, the super cinnamon. And you can actually do the same thing with a black pastel. This is actually black pastel. It's another dark morph. I'd say this one looks a little bit different than a normal. You can definitely tell there's a little bit more color coming in here. But if you actually take two black pastels, breed them together, you get a super black pastel. And that is even darker. Just take a look at this snake. This is almost as, I'd say this is probably as black as you can get in a ball python. And you know what I'm thinking? You know, the super black pastel, probably the #1 combo with the super black pastel is the panda pied. So you actually have the super black pastel and the pied, and you mix them together, and this is what you get. This is an incredible snake. This is the panda pied, and it's kind of interesting because if you look back at the super black pastel, if you look really close, it's not really like a super black, kind of like an inkjet black. You can see maybe a little coppery brown in there, but when you mix it into with a panda pied, it almost turns into this inkjet black. It's kind of interesting. It's like almost someone gave him a tattoo with really black ink. It looks really impressive when you mix it in with the panda pied. So here's another snake. This is actually a mahogany, another dark gene. The mahogany works really well with a lot of combos, and if you take two mahoganies, breed them together, you get a slightly different visual effects. You actually get what is known as the Sumo, and the Sumo has a little bit more of a coppery color than like the super black pastel or the super cinnamon. As a matter of fact, I've seen some people making Sumo pieds trying to make a different version of the panda pied, and it's not really the same as the panda pied. It's pretty close, but it's not as dark as the panda pied. And mahogany is pretty cool. You can make some really awesome combos. Take a look at this dark combo. This is the Mahogany Mojave Pastel. Really beautiful snake. And I think that's one of the advantages of having a really dark black background, is that it really enhances a lot of the colors in a lot of combinations. It just really makes the combinations pop. This one is just unbelievable. I can't believe it. So here is another one. I've actually just kind of stumbled on this lately. When I first started in ball pythons about 5 years ago, the blackhead wasn't really that common, and I'm seeing some really amazing combos with the blackhead. I haven't actually done a morph video on this one yet. It's probably coming up sometime in the future, but I've seen some incredible results mixing blackhead in with other combos, and come to find out, the blackhead is actually another really amazing dark morph. And I kind of want to show you some of the combinations with blackhead. This is actually the super blackhead. You can definitely tell it is completely different than the cinnamon or the mahogany or the black pastel. It's definitely different. You can definitely tell the super is. And it's kind of interesting if you actually have a snake and you're not quite sure what it is. Sometimes if you breed it and then breed the offspring back and make the super, sometimes you can kind of figure out what you actually have. Sometimes it's really difficult if you get a snake and you're not sure exactly what it is. And I've had a lot of people actually ask ask me, hey, how about this snake? What is it? And if you actually look at some of the base genes on all these dark morphs, some of them are really similar and it's hard to tell one from another until you start breeding it into other things. And then based on the results, you can kind of figure out what you have. So I kind of wanted to show you some more blackhead stuff, you know, with mixed in with combos. It's pretty awesome. This is actually the blackhead with the Mojave. Makes a really impressive combo. Really black background, and it has this really bright stripe all down the top. And I like that it kind of has this streaked out pattern on the sides and kind of a white belly coming up a little. And you can definitely see it has a really dark black head. I think that's where it gets the name the blackhead, because it seems like all the blackheads and the blackhead combos have a really dark head. So here's another one. This is actually the blackhead Mojave with the fire on top of it. So sometimes you can actually find two genes like the blackhead Mojave and start adding different genes to see what kind of an effect it has. And in this case, it seems like it brings up the white a little bit more up the belly and kind of wipes out the pattern on the sides even more. And take a look at this one. This is actually the blackhead Mojave with the leopard in it. So kind of working on the same base two genes, the blackhead and the Mojave. And I just love what the leopard does to this combo. It just kind of brings the black down a little bit, and you get this kind of one solid crazy streak right down the side with kind of a gray belly coming up the side. Really impressive combo. Look at the head on this thing. Super black head. So I thought this was kind of interesting. This is actually the blackhead, which is a dark morph, crossed with a cinnamon, which is a dark morph. And you actually get the blackhead cinnamon. Really impressive snake. And it almost looks kind of like a normal, except it's really super black. Makes for a really amazing combo that looks, I'd say, close to a normal ball python, but has this really black appearance to it and a really black head. It looks really awesome. So here's another combination working with two genes that are actually both in the dark complex, I guess you call them. This is actually the GHI, which is a dark morph, and the blackhead together. And it's kind of interesting. In this case, it actually kind of gives it more of a coppery color. Looks almost exactly like a GHI, but it seems like in this case, the blackhead's actually bringing out a lot of the copper color, which is kind of unexpected, and it kind of takes away, even from the blackhead, almost gives it kind of a coppery color up on the head too. I thought that was kind of interesting. So here's the last one I wanted to show you, the blackhead champagne. And I'd say the champagne is pretty difficult to work with because, you know, a lot of combos you mix it with champagne, you pretty much get a patternless snake that is a slightly different shade of color than a regular champagne. In this case, the blackhead seems like in every case that I've seen, it brings out a lot of the pattern of the champagne, which I really like, and really brings out a lot of the dark in the snake. I'd say this is probably one of my favorite champagne combos, the champagne and the blackhead. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Alex MD asks, how come female ball pythons are more expensive than the males? And that is a very good question. And the reason they're more expensive in most cases is because you can actually breed one male to multiple females. So in theory, you don't need that many males. As a matter of fact, you can actually take one male and breed it to 3 females. Most people consider that kind of the safe zone. You can actually breed more than 3 females, but you're kind of spreading your males a little bit too thin. And if you actually have a problem with your male or something like that, you can have a really bad year in ball pythons. If you have a problem with the male and you're breeding it to like 10 females, it's really risky to actually do that. And kind of on the flip side, I'd say in most cases the females are more expensive because people want the eggs. But if you actually have a brand new gene, especially with a co-dominant gene, a lot of people, especially an established breeder, what they want to do is they want to buy like a really high-end, really expensive gene in a male, especially if it's co-dominant. Then you can breed it through your collection and instantly produce a really huge return on your investment. So you see a lot of these brand new genes that are just coming out, and the males are usually more expensive, especially with the co-dominants, because people want a really quick return on investment. The problem is if you breed them too much, you can actually cause the prices to crash really fast. And you see that with a lot of genes like the scaleless head. I think a lot of people were just kind of mass producing the scaleless head, and it started at a really high price, price. People were breeding it through their collection, hoping for a return on investment, and essentially what they did is they flooded the market and the price tanked, and now we're kind of paying the price for producing so many scaleless heads. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.